What's up, everyone? It's Jay Ray, the co-host of Q Points, and one really important way that you can support our show is by subscribing to it wherever you listen to podcasts. Q Points is pretty much everywhere. One of those places where you can subscribe, and we highly encourage it, is on Apple Podcasts. If you visit qpnt.net/Apple Podcasts. You could subscribe to the show and listen to all of the episodes. And please leave us 5 stars because you know you love Q Points, and leave us a review. We really want to hear from you, and it helps to spread the word about the show. It's that simple. Thanks so much for tuning into Q Points, and thank you so much for supporting us. Have a great
Hey, word up. I just pulled up in the Sri Lanka. I am DJ Sir Daniel.
And my name is Jay Ray, also known by my government as Johnny Ray Cornegay III. What's up? My light's not on. Boom.
Boom. There we go. And welcome back to another episode of Q Points, a visual podcast and safe space for meaningful discussions about Black music and the artists that we love. Jay Ray, what has been going on? I see you are moving up and down the East Coast, traveling around presidential style. What's been going on with you?
Listen, man, I had the opportunity. Yesterday was World AIDS Day. For those of you that don't know, yesterday was World AIDS Day. And I'll put in the chat, I have a new article that's out in The Reckoning. I talked to Cheryl L. West and Jamil Jude about Before It Hits Home. That ain't what this is about. But I went to New York because Visual AIDS had a film screening. It was 6 or 7 films by folks around the world about care. Like, it's about the type of care that individuals living with HIV receive but really don't receive, right? So it was this very important conversation that was being had, and it was super impactful. And I got to hang out. I didn't go record shopping. So one of the things I wanted to do, I wanted to go record shopping, but I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna just like make it a music thing. I'm gonna just go back up there and like do music stuff at some point in the near future. But it was great. Yeah. How are you doing? How was your weekend?
Listen, I am wonderful. I had an opportunity to hang out at Amaza because Amaza was hosting the Rock the Bells Remember the Rhyme event. Took place over the weekend. Shout out to Sean Phelan and the rest of the crew that put on a really dope event. Got to see some of our favorite DJs, you know, putting it down as they usually do. My homegirl, Lady Marauder, was in the building with doing a pop-up shop.
Nice.
So I copped a couple pieces.
What'd you get? Do you remember what you got?
Oh yeah. So I think the dopest thing I found was the entire Adventures of Slick Rick record.
Wow.
Amongst the stuff that she had. So that was pretty dope. I was very psyched about that. And it was just a really dope weekend. I got to see some of my my Wax Fundamentals crew out there. So it was just a really awesome weekend. J Ray, it is December and the holidays are upon us.
Man.
Already. And big up to Carlton. We see you, Carlton. Thank you so much for joining
Thank you so much.
Watching. As usual, we appreciate you.
Yes.
I know we're competing also with 3-6 Mafia and and Annie. There's a whole lot going on, so we thank you all for joining us.
Absolutely. And if you're here with us, definitely shout it out in the chat. Some of you might even be on Twitter or even on our website, but if you are able to chat with us, definitely let us know that you're here. But yeah, the 3-6 Mafia and Bone Thugs and Harmony versus is happening. So it's 9:30 Eastern tonight. Yeah. And folks are really looking forward to tuning in. I'm happy that they decided to do this one. And It should be a fun night. I am not watching Versus tonight. I think I'm exhausted.
No.
So after this show, that's it. But I will watch everybody's recap on Twitter.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's just dive into the topic. It's been at the top of the week when the passing of Virgil Abloh was announced. All the accolades started pouring in. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he was he had a very prestigious position
Mm-hmm.
at Louis Vuitton.
Mm-hmm.
And that was groundbreaking
Mm-hmm.
for someone like him, a black man
Mm-hmm.
being ahead of a Louis Vuitton house.
Mm-hmm.
And most of his peers, of course, are from the rap community.
Yep.
Stars, especially stars like Kanye, which I believe was a really close friend of his,
Yeah.
Pharrell, Lil Baby, etc. They
Mm-hmm.
all were out in Miami to pay homage to him in the earlier part of this week as well after he passed. And it's very sad. But Virgil stood on the shoulders of a lot of pioneers, a lot of fashion pioneers that created movements.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought it would be dope for us to take a moment and give props where props are due to those iconic hip hop fashion labels and fashion designers. Because let's face it, the ripple effect, the effects of the people that we're going to talk about is still felt to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And there
Absolutely.
and corporations are still mimicking their work.
Yep.
And what I'm most proud about the people that we're about to highlight is that they're still working
Yep.
and their labels are still available to purchase today. So let's just start it off. First up, let's say what's up to Wani. Love it. Wani's in the house. Good to see you again, Wani. Thank you so much for joining in. And let's start off with Cross Colors. Because to me, I really think Cross Colors was like the beginning.
Yeah. Cross colors is so when we start thinking of hip hop history
Mm-hmm.
and synonymous with the early 90s. I think most people when they see cross colors they think TLC, they think of that entire right there, right? They think
Mm-hmm.
about that Ooh on a TLC Tip album and all of those videos being so bright, being so colorful.
Yeah.
And cross colors was really the thing. Cross colors, now what was funny about me, was funny about me and cross colors is I think I had some off-brand cross colors. My parents were not. Brenda and Johnny were not spending cross colors money. You know what I'm saying? Even though I wanted it so bad, one, it was really baggy. As you can see, like this is
Mm-hmm.
classic.
Classic Cross Colors.
Classic.
Classic.
You know, it was already baggy. I was already a husky boy. You know what I'm saying? And they weren't doing it. But such an iconic brand and really important to bringing hip hop fashion into kind of the mainstream.
Absolutely. The founders of Cross Colors are Carl Jones and TJ Walker. They founded it in 1989. I don't know if anybody remembers these big conventions, but there's a convention called the Magic Trade Show,
Mm-hmm.
which is where they made their first splash as the only black company at the trade show at that time. And again, yes, you were absolutely correct. Hip hop was going through like this very vibrant,
Mm-hmm.
um, positive, let's go back to Africa kind of movement. As you can see, there's a picture, an iconic picture of, I believe, the founders of Cross Colors,
Mm-hmm.
where their logo and their symbol behind them was that of Africa, and it was just a very positive moment in hip hop. All the videos were bright and vibrant.
Mm-hmm.
Moni Love, TLC, everybody you mentioned had these vibrant videos, and Cross Colors was the outfit to get for that. And I swear, the two of the, I guess we're like the same person
Right.
because I had a very similar experience. Okay, in high school,
Mm-hmm.
when you're taking your senior pictures,
Yes.
they ask you to go ahead and get you can do two looks. You can do your cap and gown look, and then you can get two casual looks.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, okay, I've been working I've been working at Winn Dixie. I saved up my money. Unfortunately, cross colors did not come in my size. I'm a big
That's
and tall
the
person.
other thing. I forgot about that. I couldn't fit the overalls anyway.
Exactly. So, shout out to Citywide Fashions, which is still here in Atlanta. I've been going to them since I was in high school. Citywide Fashions, they're called What's Up in Atlanta now, something else. What's happening, Atlanta? So I went down there. I found them just on the humbug, and I saw these bright, vibrant colors. I'm like, oh, they got cross colors. And the guy was like, "Oh yeah, we got them in your size. Come on," because this was a urban big and tall store.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in hog heaven, thinking I'm about to get laced, and I'm gonna have me a nice outfit. And so like I get to the clothes, and like you, they were an off-brand cross colors. As a matter of fact, the logo on the back had an X, a dash, and Tussie. They were called ecstasy. They were called ecstasy. So wait a minute. So that's not it. So I bought them. I bought a pair of orange jeans, and I bought a pair of purple jeans, which was risky as a big and tall, a husky dude back then. So I was just so happy I bought them with my own money. So I'm feeling proud. Picture day comes along, and I take these really dope pictures. And if I can find them somewhere in this house,
I want to see that.
I will post them. I did not get you know how they send around the book with the proofs. Well, anyway, you know how that goes.
Yeah.
So I go ahead and take my pictures, and that's fine. That's beautiful. It's early in the school year, and I change back into my regular clothes and go out throughout the rest of the day. Later on in the year, I'm looking for something to wear and to hurry up and go to school. I pull out those bright orange pants in the middle of the wintertime, and I wear them to school. So I'm not thinking anything of it. I completely forget about the ecstasy label on the back. And I am sitting in the algebra class, and I just happen to stand up out of my seat.
OMG. And I know, so it's like the class, it's like,
the class clown, of course, is sitting behind me and immediately cups his hands around his mouth and makes an announcement. Oh, he got on Christmas because of the X. He got on Christmas jeans. And then, of course, everybody turns around to look, and they see the big ecstasy brand on the back pockets. And I mean, I am the laughing stock of that whole classroom. Yes, K Maxwell, it's okay to laugh.
Keys is too. It's hilarious. It's hilarious.
Like, as big and tall dudes, I think we all went through something very similar.
Yes,
at some point.
So here's the deal that we're gonna make, Sir Daniel. If you find that picture, there is a video for all of y'all that are watching this show. Wani knows about the talent show when we were in middle school. Wani, if you remember the talent show when we were in middle school, just drop it in the chat. But if I can, the video exists. It's somewhere that someone who's not me can put their hands on. If you do that picture, we got to coordinate. If you do that picture, I will go public with this video that I have never wanted people to see. We did win first place. That's all I'm saying. Okay. But
did you dance or were you rapping?
I was definitely dancing. Definitely dancing. It's 1990. Moni in the
family,
middle.
We gotta see this. Oh, Q Points family, we have to see this. Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. We gonna do something. One thing I also want to mention as well, and as we go back to Virgil Abloh, yes, K Maxwell, agree. Yes, we gonna do this thing. Me and Sir Daniel, we gonna do this. We gonna give it to y'all. We're gonna find these things, y'all.
These artifacts.
Listen, Virgil was so pivotal in Kanye's transition. Wani remembers. She just is laughing at the thing. Virgil was so pivotal in Kanye's pivot into hard fashion.
Yeah.
He came into Kanye's camp, I think around the 808s and Heartbreak
808
era,
era.
and really helped to usher him into that. And then of course Virgil went and started Off-White, which became this huge streetwear, I think is what the term that is being used now, but it's still a very active brand. And so it's stuff like Cross Colors though that paved the way for that to happen. Because before, remember we talked about Run DMC, they was wearing Adidas. They was wearing an established brand.
Absolutely. And that was the thing to do. That was what success looked like to the hip hop community back then, was being able to afford the Sergios, the Lees, being able to rock
Sergio Valente, y'all. Sergio Valente.
Listen, and being able to afford a Fila tracksuit or a Todd tracksuit. The Bally's. Those are the things we were always pursuing, luxury. And then finally, we have these brothers and sisters that came along and said, you know what, we have providers right here within the community. One such brother is Karl Kani.
Listen. Woo, legend.
Karl Kani is a whole legend for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
First of all, his real name is Carl Williams. He believed in his brand so much that he legally changed his name to Karl Kani. And he became known as the godfather of urban wear back in '89 as well. Now, as you can see, a lot of the I don't know if you can see that buckle. Do you see the shiny buckle right there? So here's something, a fact about those shiny buckles. When Karl Kani's clothing started hitting and getting really popular, it was mostly the T-shirts with the signature of Karl Kani. So of course, like everything else, clothing gets bootlegged. And so what Karl did to combat bootleggers was he created that shiny buckle and engraved his signature so that you knew you had authentic Karl Kani clothing by having that heavy buckle. Now, it made the clothing heavy as hell, but you knew you were wearing authentic Karl Kani labels.
Yeah.
And brand.
At that time, so Karl Kani, I actually have a very close relationship with, because Karl Kani did make things that I could fit. Baby, them clothes was big. Them clothes was big. Huge. Boots. Okay.
Did you see the pant legs in the boot?
In the boot. You gotta put them in the boot because they was huge.
They were enormous.
Yeah, so I was able to wear Karl Kani. And the other thing about that era, and you spoke directly to it with the buckle, because remember the era where having the tag, whatever the label, they created a tag that you could keep on the item so that people knew. Y'all shouted out in the chat. I know y'all watching, and y'all had y'all tags hanging off the side of your shoe because that was a sign that, you had an original version, or you had an authentic version. So Karl was super smart and was synonymous with so many New York artists. Like Biggie was always wearing Karl Kani.
Man, there was so many hip hop artists that latched onto Karl Kani. It's not even funny. But moreover than that, if you remember, Karl Kani and the television classic New York Undercover became like synonymous with each other because Malik Yoba's character was always rocking Karl Kani. So we got to see that on a TV every Thursday night, across the nation. And so Karl Kani, he quickly became elevated as a label. He started being carried in stores like Macy's, your larger retailers, which is a very, very important factor when it comes to creating a fashion line. Because if you don't have the distribution of a big retailer like a Macy's or a Riches, I'm dating myself by saying Riches.
We didn't even have Riches down here. I'm familiar with that particular store, but we didn't have them down here.
Yeah, I think all over the place they had like a form of riches. In New York, we had Maze. Maze was like Maze was like the low brand version of Macy's. It was
Right.
just
It's
called
called
Maze.
Maze.
You may or may not be able to afford the stuff in here. But Karl Kani was super important and became elevated in that sense. And then also the clothing was very male centric,
Very much so.
and it gave black men a sense of swagger.
Yeah.
It gave them a sense of swagger. There's a picture of Diddy,
Hmm.
a young Sean Combs, modeling for
Yeah.
Karl Kani. And he of course was carrying on, like you said, Diddy,
Hmm.
Biggie, all of those guys were practicing the art of putting on Karl Kani because he was a part of the culture and he came from the streets. And it was just a wonderful time in the 90s to see everybody working together to make sure everybody was getting the look, getting the recognition.
Right. One of the most, and to that point, I think that's why, from a music perspective, is so important, right? So the reason why hip hop got to become the juggernaut. So hip hop is the culture. We talk about that all the time. Like, hip hop is the culture today. But one of the ways that it got there was through fashion. Like, was through the desire to look like your favorite MCs. And then you get folks like Karl Kani, you had Cross Colors, you had these brands that were delivering our, creating it for us, much like,
Yeah,
FUBU, for us, by us. You know what I'm
exactly.
saying? So then you don't have to go to a Gucci or an Adidas, which everybody was rocking, or Reebok. You had your Karl Kanis and your Cross Colors to go to.
Absolutely. And it wasn't just the rappers,
Mm-hmm.
the ladies like Aaliyah was rocking
Aaliyah,
Karl Kani.
absolutely,
As a matter of
absolutely.
fact, she was part of his early campaigns, where you can see Aaliyah rocking. There's the buckle in that middle. When I tell
Yep,
you that thing
right
was
there. That
heavy, it was heavy, but you knew, and it clanked against your chest
you
every time you walked, but you knew it was authentic. I had
right.
the real deal Karl Kani. But yeah, and funny thing about the fashions is you could see a lot of them were mostly baggy and
Yes.
designed for men. But women fell in line and were rocking the Karl Kani too, rocking the cross colors. Um, but as with anything, there's always one woman that
Mm-hmm.
comes along and pioneers her own and creates her own lane. And that we're talking about right there. We're going to talk about April Walker and Walker Wear. As you can see,
WW.
Biggie representing for April Walker. Listen, I think it was so much easier. Can you imagine how much easier it was to just get rappers clothing back then? Because
Yo,
none of the fashion labels, none of the luxury labels were checking for rap artists. So we
exactly.
took care of each other. They were just
Yep.
handing them clothing left and right.
Yep. And can we shout out this picture for a minute? You know what I'm saying? You got Biggie Center, you got Lil C's, Lil Kim, and Big Les. This is hip hop legends in
All over.
one picture, being as fly as they wanted to be. And it was because you had folks like April Walker providing them with what they needed. You know what I'm saying? The
The
Go
Oh, go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead. No. You go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, the importance of the community being
Hmm.
able to say, hey, listen, yes, yes, Les, that picture is iconic. Being able
Absolutely.
to call folks up and be like, listen, I'm starting something and here's the support I need. Here's a shirt. Rock the shirt. Because as soon as Biggie rocks that shirt, other big dudes like me is going to be like, what's that label? And then we going to go and try and find it somewhere in Philly to see if I can rock it too.
Absolutely. I became cognizant of Walker Wear through Run DMC
Mm-hmm.
because at the time Run DMC was making a comeback with the Down with the King
Yeah.
album.
Uh-huh.
And they were just laced head to toe in Walker Wear, especially Jam Master Jay. They were all in all of her ads, and that just calls back to the community, the hip hop community, really depending on each other for to create that excellence. And again, April was an anomaly.
Yep.
April is still an anomaly. She's like one of the few women who would create, like, everything she did was handmade.
Mm-hmm.
All of her designs were handmade. The logos, all of that were handmade in a shop that she owned in Brooklyn at the time. And she was running it down from everybody from Naughty by Nature, Notorious B.I.G., Mary. Everybody was in the mix with April Walker. And the best thing is that her label is experiencing a revival and is still
Mm-hmm.
getting love because she was dressing everybody in the Wu-Tang Clan, and now she's got ads with Method Man just
Mm-hmm.
talking about her as a leading designer back in the day. Now, if we, I don't know if there was some type of resolution to it. There was a lawsuit between Walker Wear and the late Virgil Abloh because of his
He made
something in his
he made a
off-white.
design. Yeah, his off-white brand created
Had
a
two W's.
design with the two W's that was very
Yeah.
reminiscent. I actually I wish I could remember. I'll see if I could find it and put it in the description so when y'all come back. But there was a YouTube video that kind of talked about that lawsuit a
Yeah.
bit. And I'm not sure what happened or if it's still kind of in process. It might be still one of those fresh things. But yeah, that's another kind of crossover with hip hop, and also speaks to the fact that folks have been doing this for years.
There's nothing new under the sun.
There's nothing new under the sun. Folks have been doing this for years, and as folks are thinking about getting into and doing something new or trying some of this, doing the research, figuring out what folks were doing, to make sure that we're not infringing on copyrights. I'm just throwing that out there as a thing. I'm not saying that that's what happened with Off-White, but saying
Right.
that it's something that we have to consider as we're trying to do new things. There have been people for the last almost 50 years of hip hop doing things, and there's probably been some stuff done.
Absolutely, and I feel like it speaks to the other man's ice is colder kind of mentality. Like, because it's homegrown, it's not as good as somebody else who's doing luxury brand. And I think
Ooh.
a lot of people that work in fashion, especially Black people who create fashion, are faced with that when it comes to getting their designs and getting their clothing in front of the masses, because there's this stigma that, hey, if Lester Bailey, who in fact does have a line of
Mm-hmm.
clothing, so big up to Lester Bailey, does have a line of clothing, a lot of people are like, well, what is that? Who is it? Oh, I don't know who that is. Or, it's not something, it's not a Louis Vuitton, it's not Gucci. But we have to push past that so that
Ooh.
things like this don't happen again. Like you said, we have to do the research. We have to reach back. I'm
Yeah,
pretty certain
we
if they would have known April Walker was still a viable designer and still has a label working and
right.
people are buying and it's still respected, maybe there could have been some communication.
Communication, like, hey, here's what we're thinking. It's got two W's. I remember Walker Wear. Did y'all ever
Mm-hmm.
do this? I don't want to do a thing. Sir
It
Daniels,
could have
you
led to a
could have
collaboration.
led to a collab. Like, that would have been
Yeah.
sick, right?
Yeah.
What you are speaking to is something that we've talked about so much on this show as well. And it's that idea of what these big white brands do is they take our stuff, they throw it in the wash, they bleach it up a little bit, and they sell it back to us as something
Mm-hmm.
new and fresh. Now, Black Twitter has been real dope about calling that out. The reason why Dapper Dan today is having the moment that Dapper Dan is happening is because when Gucci ran that model down that runway, the woman who had owned the jacket said, "Oh, wait a minute, no. I wore this jacket in the 80s." And Dapper
Exactly.
Dan created it and started this whole snowball of like, well, who who and what and why.
Mm-hmm.
We have to support our folks, pay your people what they're worth,
Yep.
support our people in our community who are doing dope shit. Like, we can't wait for it to become the big thing.
Absolutely.
Exactly. We
Like
can't wait, y'all.
I'm rocking my Spunk Apparel buttons right now, and the designer of Spunk Apparel is
Yeah.
in the chat, and they can make themselves known if they want to. But yeah, you're absolutely right. We really have to start loving on and supporting each other. And you know, it's a song that's been saying for years now about that.
Mm-hmm.
But we're just gonna have to keep ringing the bell and singing that gospel until we get it, until it starts clicking. So, we've been talking a lot about New York
We
designers. New York
have.
really, really put their foot in the fashion game, and rightfully so. You know,
Mm-hmm.
hip hop, the epicenter, of course, is New York.
Yeah.
However,
Mm-hmm.
Maurice Malone Maurice
Listen.
Malone was putting Detroit on the map as a fashion hub. Maurice Malone, I remember going to Citywide, the same
Mm-hmm.
store, and finding this T-shirt, and all it said was the hip hop shop,
Yeah.
and it was just the Maurice Malone logo. It was a very simple T-shirt, but I wanted the fact that it said hip hop on it.
Yeah.
And that's what hip hop meant to me, is I wanted people to know that I identified with hip hop.
Yep.
I wanted people to know that I was of the hip hop generation.
Yep.
And I, of course, bought the shirt. But Maurice Malone is a master denim designer out of Detroit,
Yeah.
especially the 8 Mile
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, his shop was like the spot for a lot of MC battles
Yeah, the hip hop
in
shop.
Detroit.
Yeah, the
The
hip
hip
hop
hop shop,
shop
yeah.
in Detroit is legendary. And so a lot of, okay, let's take a step back to with Maurice Malone, because there's actually an interesting tidbit about him.
Mm-hmm.
Maurice Malone started doing his thing in like 85. Like, he was like doing denim design with a hip hop edge really early. He was in Detroit. You know what I'm saying? So it's a different space, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing about Maurice Malone, and you could kind of see it in the reel that we just played, is he was of course very hip hop foundational in terms of fashion, but he was also playing in the high fashion arena really like early. So like doing all of those things and with the models and the jeans and like the whole nine. So bringing hip hop fashion to the world from a high a fashion house perspective. But yeah, the hip hop shop in Detroit, where a lot of folks would actually perform, including Slum Village, including Jay Dilla, including Proof, including Eminem, including all these, any and all the Detroit
Roy.
legends, you know, Royce, have some dealings or have run through the hip hop shop, because that's what the hip hop shop kind of did. And so yeah, really just an important designer. Maurice Malone is still out there designing.
Yeah.
Has a new label now, so you could go to mauricemalone.com and catch up on what Maurice is doing, but he hasn't stopped, and he's continuing, much like these other folks, to design, man.
And I think that's the best part, is that these people have not stopped and we can
Yep.
still support them. Um yeah, you know, this episode is important for many reasons, including many of these clothing labels came along. There are a lot more clothing labels, of course, came along after these
Yeah.
labels that we mentioned, and they started capitalizing on hip hop culture.
Mm-hmm.
But very few of those labels were actually helmed or creatively directed by Black people.
Yep.
You know, you get a lot of labels just started, and not even, they weren't even considered hip hop clothing labels.
Right.
But then you had your established
Mm-hmm.
labels who wanted to come along and build upon and capitalize on hip hop, even when at some point okay, so let's talk about it.
Tommy
Remember, there was
Hilfiger.
that one, yeah, there was that one rumor going around, which he refutes to this day, that Tommy Hilfiger said that he absolutely did not make clothes for black people, and he didn't want any black people wearing his clothing. But
I
then he
believe
turned
it. I
around.
believe. I believe that.
He
I
says he
believe it.
didn't. He was on Oprah and said he didn't. And if you can't lie on Oprah, everybody knows that. You can't lie on the Oprah Winfrey Show. But then he turned around and capitalized on hip hop by having
Yeah.
Aaliyah and CAD and ad campaigns,
Mm-hmm.
having members of Wu-Tang in ad campaigns. Like Raekwon and Ghostface, and
Mm-hmm.
it's so funny. And of course, Polo.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Polo did the same thing. Some of their clothing was so expensive. Here's the funny thing about Polo. There was a full on booster club, a booster gang, I should say, and they stole nothing but Polo. They boosted it out of all the high end stores.
Mm-hmm.
All they did, like you hear about the smash and grabs that are going on now at Louis Vuitton. That's exactly what they were doing in the mid '90s to these Polo stores and robbing them and stealing, and then selling it back to the hood, for lower prices because we wanted to rock. We wanted to rock that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and you also saw the effect of black people entering the market, and it's funny what they decided to do, but it's something that I think people wanted to, where your Gucci's and your Louis Vuitton will all of a sudden have these huge logos or lots of things happening on the shirt. So because when we're talking about rappers, you gotta show that you wearing the thing that you spent $200 on. That wasn't even considered like the high fashion version, but they created a version. It was like an entry point for the urban consumer. So you have all of these classic brands creating entry points for folks to come in and buy their stuff because they knew that rappers would want to rock it. And that's all.
What was the need for a Tommy Hilfiger shirt to be like super baggy, four times the size and 4 times as long? Because it was hip hop.
Coogee, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Biggie loved the Coogee, baby.
Absolutely.
That is the effect of us and our culture literally steering the marketplace. And so that's why a Virgil Abloh at a Louis Vuitton made sense, because now that hip hop is the culture, it's like, we need somebody. All right, let's just do it. Like, it's going to be part of it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And you know what? We've been talking about these brands that came about because of the hip hop culture. So there's a few that we hadn't mentioned, and we want to give them some shine and give them a shout out. Mm-hmm. We have to shout out Fat Farm.
Absolutely.
Because Fat Farm was really was part of that movement. Yeah. Russell Simmons, of course.
Oh, Russell. It's hard to talk about Russell these days.
Russell Simmons, created a whole movement with the Def Comedy Jam, Fat Farm clothing.
Baby Fat, with Kimora.
With Kimora came along and did Baby Fat, which is iconic in and of itself.
Because man.
Now, it's mentioned in rap songs.
Yep.
Boots with the fur and Baby Fat, all of that good stuff. And but yeah, so there's Fat Farm, Baby Fat. You mentioned Fubu earlier.
Absolutely. Who's back out. Like, Fubu is, somebody said Fubu's in Walmart now. I haven't seen it.
It is.
Okay, so listen. Yeah. Fubu is doing its thing.
Fubu, and I will say this, Fubu has always been available in big and tall sizes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I wore Fubu.
Big guys.
And I wore the boots. The Fubu boots was my thing. Like, I liked Fubu boots a lot.
And the Fat Albert line, I wasn't going. There was no way I was going to put on.
I didn't. I skipped it. I was big enough.
But exactly. But to their credit, LL Cool J and them became synonymous together.
Anonymous. And that was a pivot for
LL
LL. Because remember, he was wearing the Adidas tracksuits. And then he put on that FUBU hat, and it
in the
was a
Gap
wrap.
commercial. In the Gap commercial.
In the
and
Gap.
would not take it
That's
off.
right.
Yeah.
LL Cool J wore a FUBU hat in a Gap commercial, and nobody caught it, y'all.
No, they talked about it, but he refused to take it off.
Okay. I didn't know that.
And remember, in the rhyme, in the commercial, he ends it with "for us, by us," and like signifies the hat. So LL really rode hard for Fubu.
Black people, we're
And so,
amazing.
listen. And earlier when you were talking about Maurice Malone's shot, it reminded me of Wu Wear.
Absolutely.
And Wu Wear actually had a store here in Atlanta in the mid '90s that they did the same thing. They would have a DJ in there. People would just be in there browsing, looking, and then somebody might start a freestyle cipher. It was just a whole rap movement. So that kind of put me in that space. Shout out to Hollywood.
Oh, I forgot about Hollywood.
Which was Pepper, Salt and Pepper store, which was down here by Lenox Mall, which was a big mistake because people that could afford Hollywood would not go all the way out to Lenox Mall. They needed to be by Greenbrier Mall. So anyway, that was for,
I remember when she opened that shop. That was a big deal in hip hop.
It was a huge deal for Pepper and the culture. So if we couldn't have any of those, and then they begat Darion.
Oh wow, yeah! Come on, Beyonce, listen. Big deal, and then that's now a whole new thing with her.
Well, you wouldn't have Ivy Park. You couldn't have Ivy Park without House of Darion. So let's not act like that didn't happen.
House of Darion absolutely happened, and it made way for what Beyonce is doing today. Like it had to start somewhere.
So let's not forget Rock Up. See, crossing, you read my mind. Rockaware, which begat State Property.
Yep. Oh,
shout out to
I forgot they had a label too.
I know some of y'all on this timeline, I know y'all was rocking State Property because I've seen you in pictures wearing State Property. Don't act. You had State Property, you had Fetish.
Oh, yeah.
And Russell Simmons' nieces. They had Pastry.
I forgot about Pastry. Yeah. Run's daughters.
Angela and Vanessa had Pastry. Yeah. And of course, every big dude that wanted to be fly, we cannot not give props to Sean John.
Sean John. Listen, Sean John. Diddy say all of what you want about Diddy. He made us look really good. Like that Sean John stuff was hot. Like you can go into, I think Sean John, there was actually just a report like today, Diddy wants to buy Sean John out of bankruptcy or whatever. I think it's in bankruptcy now. But you can go into K&G today and cop a Sean John suit. You'll look good.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
K&G, certain Burlingtons, definitely Macy's.
Yeah.
And which is still huge for a label to still be in Macy's, which is an anchor store. Yes, Lester. Thank you for reminding
Mecca
us
and
of
Nietzsche.
Mecca
Yeah.
and Jabot. Listen.
Oh my God. Yes. Hold on. I got to put those in the thing. All of these brands. Oh my God. Mecca was like, for me, that was another brand that I wore a lot. I think they had the little mouse or the bear. It was something that they used as like an alternative. Yeah. But it was like these brands, especially for the hip hop generation, y'all, were like so incredibly important. And we have to remember who these folks were and what they brought. There is a documentary on Netflix which talks about hip hop fashion. I think it has like Fab Five Freddy and like all of these people in there, but definitely check it out. I'm going to look for it and I'll put that in the description too. But yeah, these brands were like incredibly important, y'all. And
very important.
It made as much as it was about the music, the visuals and the way the rappers looked made a difference. It made a difference.
It absolutely did. It employed a lot of people. A lot of people became stylists and created their own fortunes because of these designers putting together their own labels. And shout out to the stylists who kept their ears to the street and pulled in those labels like Misa. I mean, everybody,
Baby,
all hail Misa Hilton. Misa Hilton
we need a
literally put
show
a
on
lot of
just
these,
Misa Hilton.
literally brought all of these people into the game. Like, here,
Yep.
put this on,
Yep.
and gave people the clothing to wear. Yeah, so we got a LRG. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
LRG definitely all these different labels. So this show again, I hope you all see the importance of this show, this episode, and paying homage to the labels because hip hop and fashion hand in hand. You
Mm-hmm.
can't have one without the other. We as black people, we just like to look good.
Baby, we want to
From
swag. We want to go out. We
all
want
of
to
it.
look good. And these labels
All of it.
provided us with a way to one say we were hip hop. Like we could literally walk out the door and you'd be like that person is of the hip hop generation just based on what they got
Absolutely.
on.
Absolutely. And now the best thing is that yes, you thought this was just streetwear, but a lot of these labels are luxury, um, have luxury lines as well.
Yep.
Yes, shout out to Averex and Pelipel.
Yep.
Do y'all remember Davucci? Now
I
you
don't
was
remember
real hood. Now
Davucci.
you were real hood if you had Davucci on that, and I saw all the Davucci ads were in the Source magazines. So
Okay.
yes, so if you can get your hand on, just look up Davucci, Davoucci, real hood luxury brand from back in the day. But yes, I okay, Lester. Lester is really
Right.
bringing
And
back
it was
memories.
Iceberg
Iceberg,
that I was
man.
thinking of with the little bear thing. It was
That's
Iceberg.
it.
It wasn't
Yeah,
Mecca. It was
yeah.
Iceberg.
Wow.
Y'all listen, make sure y'all know the deal. Make sure y'all pop on over to Q Points and become a Q Points insider. You know, I put the link over there in the chat for you. Make sure that you follow us on social media. We're on Instagram at Q Points. We're on Twitter at Q Show and on Facebook at Q Points. Make sure you follow us. We got a new thing. Facebook has done away with likes, so it's follow. You can follow the pages
Okay.
now. Uh,
Okay.
Facebook is their meta now. You know, it's changing.
Changing. Yeah. It's Jennifer Holiday.
Right. I'm changing. Oh, Miss Holiday. Hey, shout out to Jennifer Holiday, who's always vocally gonna give it to you. Apple Podcasts, follow us, leave us a review on Podchaser, and subscribe to us on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking this trip down memory lane with us. Oh, somebody mentioned, I forgot to mention No Limit.
Oh, no
No
limit.
Limit. Listen, can't not talk about
Yeah.
Master P because Master P has his hands in a lot of pots. So
Yep.
yeah, if nothing, black people are going to take care of each other and help us each to look good in some form, way, or fashion. But listen, what do I always say, guys? Thank you so much for joining us in this life. You have a choice. You can either pick up the needle or you can let the music play. I am DJ Sir Daniel.
I am J Ray. Peace.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week for another episode of Q Points.